Once upon a time, there was a little boy. He was adventurous. He went on safaris and other adventures in his backyard jungle. His favorite stories were the ones where brave knights fought terrible monsters to save the day. He looked at his father and men in his life, and he dreamed of how he would grow up to be big and strong and handsome, just like them. There was only one problem. His parents thought that he was a little girl. See, when he was born, the doctor looked at his body and declared him to be female. He was given a girl's name, the girliest of names. He was assigned female pronouns. While he wasn't held back from playing with boys and with boy toys, he was told over and over that he wasn't normal. There was something deeply, terribly wrong with him. Coming in from recess covered in dirt, he was shamed for looking like a boy. When he sat with his knees spread, he was told, "Sit like a lady." When he was once called young man in an ice cream store, his mommy told off the server and then said to him, "Doesn't that make you feel bad?" He didn't understand why it should. In fact, when it was said, for a brief second, he had felt so proud of himself. As he grew older, these moments happened more and more. Older women in his family tried to teach him how to dress right. He was even coached on how to walk properly. On formal occasions, he ruined the makeup being applied to his face with the tears he couldn't hold back. Looking at the other boys in their suits, complaining about their ties, all he wanted in the world was to learn how to tie one. Eventually, time caught up to our young man. The dreadful monster called puberty was lurking. It crept up and attacked one day without warning. His whole life, he thought that enemies were something that could be seen. Monsters could be rallied against and fought back to whence they came. Little did he know that the worst enemies sometimes come from within. Sometimes they come in the form of our own bodies. Sometimes, no matter how hard we try, we can't stop the passage of time. One fateful day, he went to the bathroom and he saw that he was bleeding, and he thought that he was dying. His mommy sat him down. She explained to him that this was completely normal. It was even something to be excited about. He wasn't dying, he was growing up. The pain he was feeling was a rite of passage felt by all women through all time. It meant that he could one day meet the right man and make babies with him. It also meant that he was going to start to look like mommy and all the women he knew. As she explained this all, she seemed so happy. But the little boy felt like his heart was being crushed inside of him. He sat very quietly by himself that night. Outside in the yard where he had battled imaginary monsters and won, he faced this new one and retreated. How could he battle something inside of himself? There was no way of stopping what was happening. No more playing pretend. He had to face reality. The woman he was supposed to be stepped up. She told him that he had to go away, run and hide, and never come back. If she had to become a woman, she would do her best to forget that he had ever existed. In fact, she now understood that he wasn't supposed to have ever existed at all. He was a mistake. She took him by the hand and locked him away and built walls to drown out his cries. Over time, she moved on. She forgot the little boy. She went to school and learned useful things, not so useful things. She rebelled against her parents and struck out on her own. She learned to take care of herself, how to pay bills, how to get a job. Reacting very much like a child sometimes, she also learned how to lose jobs. She found love, thought she did. Experimenting with different people, different genders, she found herself never fully satisfied. She continued to lie to everyone around her, continued to try to be normal, but it proved difficult. She had never even tried to put makeup on, never even learned how to style her long hair. Fashion didn't interest her, and she became overwhelmed when even trying to pick out and try on clothing. She didn't fit in with women in her social and religious spaces, and try as she might, she was also not invited into the male circles. She began feeling more and more out of place, more and more that she could not be like all the women around her. Not only in accepting the people who found her form pleasing, but in accepting the form itself. There were times her body felt alien to her. Times she wished she could crawl out of her own skin. She looked at the men in her life and remembered wanting to be like them. She cut her hair shorter and remembered how it felt to feel handsome. She bound her breasts and learned what it felt like to be called sir. Slowly but surely, she remembered what she wanted to be when she grew up. But before she could become that big, strong man, she had to go back. She suited up, putting on her armor. She took up the sword of self-acceptance and the shield of support. She returned to the walls that she had built, hacked away at the barriers. She stood up to the society that told her who she was supposed to pretend to be, knocked down the standards that made other people comfortable, shunned would-be life coaches who told her, just try and act properly. She finally reached the door that she had locked so long ago, and with a mighty roar, she kicked it asunder. Inside, alone and afraid, she found the little boy. He had accepted how wrong he was, that he was a dirty thing to be kept secret. She had observed through the girl's experiences that he was a mistake to begin with. He was ashamed to be seen again and tried to hide himself. Once again, she took him by the hand. She explained how right and okay he was, that he was not a mistake. The mistake was that he had ever been told that his insides needed to match his outsides. She told him how he was the one who was meant to be all along. There was just one more quest to go on, one more battle to win. She led him outside and introduced him to the world. They went on small adventures at first, buying men's underwear, getting his hair cut, then on to larger tasks like learning how to correct his hormones and make his body look right. Finally, he was able to stand up and take on the world. Stepping up with his head held high, he announced himself to the world, "I am Bear and I am a boy," he shouted. The walls fell down and the monster was defeated. He thanked the woman for helping him and for the lessons she had learned that he could use. He embraced her tightly and she faded away. He went on to fight many other smaller battles. It turns out that after facing the enemy that is your own self, other foes seem petty. And he will continue to fight. Unlike a fairy tale, the villains don't simply disappear, the world doesn't just become right and just, and the hero does not just get to live happily ever after. There are others to take up the sword for, and a system that insists on trying to beat them down. And he's ready to take them all on. The end.